Hi, my name is Machek,
Hi, my name is Luke.
and welcome to the My Pen is Huge podcast. Today we have a special guest. Their name is.
Hi, I'm Carson.
And today we will be reviewing the masterpiece Who Killed Captain Alex by. Who is it again?
Nabwana I.G.G.
And we just want to preface this by saying we apologize if we unintentionally mispronounce any names. We're not doing it out of spite. We are actually just very much admiring Nabwana I.G.G. because we think he's a genius.
This is the best movie I've ever fucking seen. Okay? I'm just gonna get that out of the way right now. I adore this film.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, needless to say, this is going to be a very interesting review. Typically, the way we do these, as of the past couple episodes, is we go by 7 categories. We do directing, writing, cinematography, editing, acting, production design, and sound. And we typically basically put some of these categories in a good side and some of them on a bad side. However, since this movie is very much in a gray area, since some people consider it so bad that it's good, we've decided that we will be throwing out the good and the bad side idea out of the window for this episode and just kind of go by each category directly and talk about how we feel about each one. So firstly, we're going to talk about directing.
Well,
And
I feel this requires a bit of context. People need to
Yeah.
understand what this movie is.
yeah, I mean, I feel like, because the director is so integral to the movie that I feel like once we just go into directing, we can talk about the context. And Luke is an expert on Nabwana I.G.G. and Wakali films.
Hollywood films.
Wakaliwood films, I'm sorry. So why don't you give us some of the context for this film?
Okay. So, this film was made with a micro budget of $200
Yeah.
in the slums of Uganda during the Ugandan Civil War. There's a scene where the characters are drinking water, and they use blue paint because they didn't have access to clean water. It's incredible, honestly. These people were dying of starvation in an active war zone, and they built a computer to edit the film on, and they grabbed a camera and they said, "Fuck it, let's go make a movie." And they had the time of their lives. You can tell these people genuinely just had an amazing time making this film, and it's honestly inspiring, and I just love it. Like there was one scene where they wanted to show the military cracking down on the city of Kampala. They wanted to show the city being put into martial law. So they just turned on the TV because that was what was actually happening in their country at the time.
Yeah.
And it's sad, but it's also inspiring in a way that the art survived the conflict, as mushy as that sounds.
It's very inspiring, and they actually have a lot of themes about war in general, which I found very interesting. But I think we'll get into that when we get into the writing section.
So let's talk about the directing.
Yeah. Who wants to begin? Do you want to begin, Carson?
Sure. Overall, I think the directing was interesting. Definitely, how can I put it? It's good for the budget. I think he did a really good job with just like finding that human character even in the middle of war and making it seem like every character was needed. But at the same time, one of my, I think, biggest critiques when it came to the directing was how long some of the like gunfight scenes were. Just because they lost my interest after a while. Like, they were action-packed for sure, but it was the same thing over and over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
So I got bored with it after a while.
Would you say you're a fan of action films in general? Or
Yes.
Is that you
Yeah,
are? So
totally.
you just thought that
They were too, it was too, like, just similar. Everything was like, I felt like I was watching the same shot 20 different times, just with a different camera angle.
Okay. And so that's your biggest critique of the action scenes within this action-packed Ugandan film, I
Yes.
guess is how they describe it, right?
I believe it's called the first action film from Uganda. I have no idea if that's true, but it's on the DVD. That
Yeah,
this
that's
is
what
the
they
first
claim.
action film from Uganda.
So what do you think? So besides the action scenes, then do you think the human drama aspect is directed well, or do you think that was poorly done?
I think it definitely was directed well for their conditions. It made it seem real. It made you feel like you were kind of really seeing that Ugandan military side of things and then the mafia side of things as well.
Okay. Uh, Luke, I know you probably have a lot to say, so go ahead, please.
So first off, let's just get the obvious out of the way. The fight scenes are better than most shit Hollywood produces.
Yeah.
These guys actually compete in local kung fu tournaments in Uganda, and fuck me, like it was like watching a live action Kung Fu Panda movie. That's the best way I can describe it, and it's such a good time. Like it's like the the choreography and the stage combat is unironically good, but it's also just so fucking fun to watch. Like it's and that's sort of the perfect combination, isn't it? Unironically good and fun to watch.
Yeah.
I will admit some of the gunfights got a bit out of hand.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think they mixed it up enough at the end though, with the helicopter bombing the fucking city. I think I gotta disagree just a little bit. I think there was a little bit of variation, but that it could have been trimmed down. I will acknowledge the constant fucking action was a bit much, but I still had a great time.
I mean, to clarify with what I was saying, I loved that differentiation with the helicopter, but it was that forest scene at the end where it was just constant like forest combat gun to gun and then like seeing people falling.
Yeah.
I do think they could have made it work better, but also the final fight should last a significant amount of time, and it would have been somewhat anticlimactic if the final battle between the military and the mafia was over in like a few minutes.
Yeah, I think the makers of Infinity War took a page out of who killed Captain Alex's climactic battle
the
scene.
MCU is just a ripoff of Hollywood.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We need to acknowledge it.
We're just gonna have to say this right now on the podcast. We fully support Hollywood, and the MCU can suck their balls.
Okay, but you gotta give it to the MCU. They have the variation, like, of the differences in the final scenes with, like, all their different types of superheroes. In this one, it was just all guns.
Well, listen, I mean, if I feel like, unironically, if I'm sorry, I don't want to mess up his name, Nabwana, right? Nabwana.
Yes, Nabwana.
If Nabwana I.G.G had the budget of an MCU movie, I feel like he could actually make a decent.
Oh yeah,
like
totally. He's an amazing director.
I mean,
overall.
like the one scene where the army commando sneaks up on the mafioso and stabs him in the fucking jugular.
That was awesome.
That was
and the
really
blood
cool.
splurts everywhere. That looked really fucking good. There's a reason this guy is called the Ugandan Tarantino.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh wait, the Ugandan Spielberg, I think, or one of those.
No. Yeah, I saw on Wikipedia he's called the Ugandan Tarantino.
Really?
Just because of the level of violence in the fucking movies.
That's
Wow.
amazing. Yeah, I mean, like in my opinion, I thought the directing for okay, I feel like the action scenes were pretty well shot. I really appreciate the fact that he does wide angle shots so you can actually see what the fuck is going on.
Yes, I hate in Hollywood action movies where they like make a jump cut every 2 fucking seconds and you can't see anything.
Yeah, it's basically like you see the shot of the hit going in and then they cut and then it's the actual punch. So it loses all the impact of the actual violence. But the fact that you can see it all in one fluid motion not only shows the dedication that they had to the fight choreography within the movie, but it also just shows, I guess, kind of like there's an artistic integrity to it. You know, the fact that you can show the violence and it shows that you're skilled enough to be able to do that and not cheap out with some cuts, I guess. You know what I mean?
That also has to do with a lot of the actors are trained in Kung Fu, if not all of them.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, in Hollywood movies, it's just stunt doubles. Like, I don't really think they have much training, like, with a martial art.
I mean, honestly, like, show me anyone in a Hollywood action movie with more passion than these fuckers from Uganda
Agreed.
who learned actual kung fu to make a fucking action movie.
Yeah,
Wait,
exactly.
did they learn it for the movie specifically, or did they just know it?
I honestly don't know what the
Okay.
timeline is. I think they had been training before the movie
Mhm.
and then decided, like, okay, this is the style of fighting we're gonna go with because it's what we already know what to do.
Yeah. Besides that, though, I think, I mean, I agree with you guys for the most part about some of the gunfight scenes. Sometimes I caught myself zoning out because there was just so much happening.
Yeah.
So much. It's honestly absurd at some points.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really fun to watch. You can tell that the director has a lot of passion, which is, you can, like, that's a lot more than you can say about a lot of directors in
Mhm.
Hollywood. I
Yeah.
feel like you can feel the passion with every shot that he
Mhm.
has. Some of the shots aren't perfect. I mean, they can't be perfect. It's not like, I mean, you don't need to go to film school to be a great director, but like, I mean, I'm not sure how many films they can actually watch in Uganda for reference, if that makes any sense. It's not like they.
I mean, they knew who Bruce Lee was.
That's true, but I guess, I mean, it's not like every single day they can just watch a masterpiece,
Yeah.
that can be seen all around the world. You know what I mean? They don't have the huge expansive library of
Oh,
film that we are lucky enough and privileged enough to have, especially with like some of the streaming services we
Yeah.
can use.
I mean, the fact that we can just watch almost anything on fucking Netflix or Hulu is really just awesome.
Yeah, but
And-
I'm not sure if in Uganda they probably can, just judging based on the conditions, and like the historical context of the film. However, just based on, the sources that they had and the actual directing of the movie, I'm really impressed.
Mhm.
And I'm proud to say that I'm like genuinely like really astonished and inspired by Nabwana I.G.G. and his style of directing, his passion for it, and how even though they had no budget and they were in a war zone where people were starving, they were still able to make a pretty decently shot movie.
Oh yeah.
And that's a lot. That's the most you can say about it. It's
Like-
impressive and inspiring.
That's what I was gonna say. This dude has passion. Like, that's what it comes down to. He has passion compared to a lot of Hollywood directors who are really only in it for the money, which kind of is unfortunate because it makes their directing half-assed. This was full in, like, passion, dedication.
Yeah, I mean, he built a computer, made a movie, burned the movie onto a DVD,
Mhm.
and then deleted it off his computer so he'd have room for his next. Like, he really genuinely just loves making movies. He's a passionate artist, and that's why I can't gripe on this movie for its mistakes too
Yeah.
much. It's a lot easier to make fun of a multi-billion-dollar movie studio when they fuck up, but it's like, I just want to give Nabwana a hug.
Yeah.
You know?
Like this movie, like some of the bad qualities that it has is excusable because of its approximately $200 budget. But like The Room had $6 million fucking dollars and it was a piece of shit. So it's like, I mean, I'm beyond impressed.
Mhm.
And before, I mean, do you guys have anything else to say about the directing before
No,
we move
I'm
on?
ready. I'm ready to
good.
move on to
Yep.
writing.
Before we move on to writing, we just want to preface that the movie is on YouTube,
Oh.
and you should watch it and experience the story for yourselves.
I meant to
Yeah.
say this earlier. The movie's on YouTube. Go watch it right now. Pause this podcast. Go watch it. Have a great fucking time.
But
Yeah.
then don't forget to come back to us.
Yeah, honestly, like, I mean, we basically described all the positive qualities within the directing or within the directing portion of this podcast in and of itself. And if you're not convinced by the passion of this movie to just give it a watch and try and have some fun, well then, I guess this movie's just not for you, and you have no soul.
Yeah. If you, I said when we weren't recording, if you can't get some enjoyment out of this movie, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
I think your exact words were, "You have no personality."
Yes. Yes. All right. So we will be going into spoiler territory to try and explain the actual plot. So please go watch the film, and if you want to listen to us, then come back. So who wants to explain the plot of this movie? Because it's a bit tough.
It's impossible.
I feel like you need to though, Luke, because you've seen it multiple times.
Okay. So I've seen this movie 3 times, and I still have no idea what the fuck it's about.
Yeah.
That's a bit of an exaggeration, but the plot is very difficult to follow. Basically, Richard is the Tiger Mafia. He says it multiple times. He does not describe himself as the leader of the Tiger Mafia. He introduces himself as Richard, the Tiger Mafia.
Yeah.
So Richard is the Tiger Mafia, and the Tiger Mafia sort of secretly controls the city of Kampala from the shadows. It's a very corrupt city, I guess, and the Mafia has a lot of control.
Yeah.
So the military sends in Captain Alex to take the Richard, the Tiger Mafia down. Captain Alex launches an attack on a Tiger Mafia base and captures Richard's brother. And so then Richard, for the rest of the movie, is trying to get his brother back. So Richard sends in a spy to the military camp, and she seduces Captain Alex with the idea being like, get his guard down and have him put all of his gear and guns away, and as he's about to have sex with me, the Mafia storms in and kidnaps him. And then Richard was going to make a trade for the release of his brother. He would release Captain Alex, who he was planning to take hostage. But then, while Captain Alex is getting undressed and he's like taking a bath, a gunshot goes off, and cue the title card, "Who Killed Captain Alex?"
Yes.
So then Captain Alex's brother, who is described as the Ugandan Bruce Lee, we call him Bruce Yu.
Yeah.
So Bruce Yu shows up. Bruce Yu is a super kung fu master, I believe he is described as.
Yes.
And Bruce
Super
Yu,
fighter.
a super fighter as
Yeah.
well. So Bruce Yu shows up and tries to help with the investigation because his brother has been murdered. And eventually he just sort of assumes that the Tiger Mafia did it. And
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was like based on like they found a walkie-talkie, I guess, and when Richard captured 2 of the soldiers, since they weren't able to capture a dead Captain Alex, he heard Richard talking, I guess, about Captain Alex or whatever. And they make that assumption that he did it or something.
So Bruce Yu fucks off. So Bruce Yu goes out on his own. He tries to enlist the help of his fellow Shaolin monks at the Kung Fu Training Academy, and they tell him that the martial arts are to be used for physical fitness and self-defense, not revenge.
Yeah.
So he goes off on his own to try and get revenge for Richard, and meanwhile Richard is enraged because his only leverage, the guy he was going to make a trade to get his brother back with, is now dead. So Richard did not kill Captain Alex, but Bruce Yu thinks Richard did kill Captain Alex. So Bruce Yu is going to the Tiger Mafia base to kill Richard. And eventually the military also decides to go to the Tiger Mafia base to kill Richard. And they sort of show up at the same time. And
shenanigans ensue.
Yeah, so then Bruce Yu has like a kung fu fight on the inside, and then in the jungle the mafiosos and the military fight with guns, and there's sort of a simultaneous 2 big battle scenes going on. And then one of the mafiosos is ordered by Richard to steal a helicopter and bomb Kampala. And Richard says, "They love Uganda more than they hate me, so go bomb the city as a distraction."
Yeah.
With the idea being that they'll abandon the battle and go save the civilians if they're bombed. So Kampala is destroyed, and the Tiger Mafia eventually loses the battle to the military. Richard escapes, but his underground crime syndicate is basically destroyed. It's just him and a few people who survived the battle. I believe Bruce Yu gets bombed by the helicopter.
We think.
Yeah. And yeah, that's
basically
the
it.
good
right?
guys win, I guess.
But at the same time, it's very hard to follow because you don't know half the time. am I supposed to be like supporting the mafia? Am I supposed to be supporting the military?
Yes, Richard is presented as a very sympathetic villain.
I mean, it's like very much in the same vein as Thanos, like unironically. Like I know that we're probably going to be bringing up the MCU a lot, but and I'm gonna assume most of you have seen Infinity War in the same way that Thanos is a sympathetic character because his whole philosophy of like I guess destroying half the universe for the greater good of the people and like him sacrificing his loved ones like is basically all in vain to like help others. The same could be said about Richard, except instead of doing the greater good, he's just trying to save his younger brother. I guess he's very much like a family man. And honestly, like a lot of people can sympathize with that idea. You know what I mean? And the other hero, Bruce Yu, has the same conflict.
Other hero? Did you just describe Richard as a hero?
Oh, my bad. Yeah. Well, the hero of the story, Bruce Yu, has the same motivations as Richard. So, I mean, you could say that...
That is a nice parallel.
Yeah. Like, so, I mean, you could almost say that they're the heroes of their own story, and you can interpret hero however you want. I mean, they're both antagonizing each other, and they're both the protagonists of their own story.
Yeah, Richard is just much more ruthless.
Yeah, whereas, I mean, although Bruce Yu uses Kung Fu not for the right reasons, he's doing it out of, well, I mean, honestly, you can even say that his intentions are somewhat selfish and evil since, one, he's not following the rules of how you're supposed to use Kung Fu, but also there's no one to save. So, I mean, he's just doing this to, I guess...
To make himself feel better.
Yeah. So, I mean...
And I mean, even the military in the movie said, like, okay, you're going too far with this. You're a civilian. Like, stay out of it. But he didn't listen, obviously.
Yeah, so, I mean...
They're both sort of criminals who disregard what the military and the government say they should be doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, the story's a lot more nuanced than I feel like a lot of people give it credit for. I mean, we didn't even see this nuance before we just started having this conversation. So, yeah, I mean, in general, what is your guys' opinion of the story and the writing in general?
I think the story was well written, but a lot of it had to be inferred because of what VJ...
Oh, VJ Emmy.
VJ Emmy. VJ Emmy's the main character.
Basically, VJ Emmy in Ugandan films, a lot of the time they'll have it be like a voiceover. Like someone basically talking about like how they talk in a documentary, I guess is the best way to say that.
Kind of like a commentator. In
a commentator. Yeah. So throughout the entire movie, this dude is commentating in English versus the rest of the actors who are talking in Swahili. And so there's subtitles for them, but then the VJ is talking in English and basically changing the plot in a lot of parts. So you have to follow like his version of the story as well as like your interpretation of what the actors are saying, which makes it very confusing at points.
Yeah, so Luke, do you want to give some context for what a VJ stands for and what it actually is, I guess, in Uganda?
So a VJ is a video joker. And basically in Ugandan films, it is very normal. It's a standard thing for like the movie is made and then you go to the movie theater and you watch it and there's a dude with a microphone just like talking over it the entire time. Like in the same way you'd hear a commentator over a sports game like, oh, and Tom Brady passes it to I don't know football players to number 24 and he gets the touchdown. Like there's just a dude talking, like explaining what's happening in the movie.
But I guess it's more of, I mean, not only does he explain the plot of the movie, but he's also, I guess as the name implies, a joker. So he's kind of a comedian.
He cracks so many jokes and it makes the movie better.
Yes.
I mean,
the movie is unironically fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
I love it.
Except the only problem with the video joker is that in order to make said joke about a certain scene, he actually inadvertently changes the story that is going on.
Yeah, which can make it confusing for people who don't talk Swahili.
Yeah, so there's
the one dude, Bruce Yu, starts going through a bag, and then VJ Emmy just goes, "Where is money? I need money." And
it was more like his brother was looking for clues about the murder,
Yeah.
not trying to steal money from his dead brother.
Yeah, that's actually a perfect example.
Yeah, so Bruce Yu is looking for clues to try and figure out who murdered his brother, and then VJ Emmy, who talks over the entire movie, cracks a joke about him searching for money in the bag. And like in order to make that joke, he sort of has to take the emotional depth and the tension out of the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes the movie funnier, but at the expense of genuinely good and interesting drama.
Yeah, but you can't blame Nabwana I.G.G. necessarily for this, since his story of about the vengeance of Captain Alex, and then Richard's own story of, I guess you can also say, vengeance, or like trying to bring his brother back, is completely separate from the world of VJ Emmy and his commentary of the film.
Yeah.
So I think from a general consensus, the story itself is interesting. Some of the dialogue, I mean, let's just face it, is kind of, I don't know, like cheesy, I guess. But I mean, it adds to the fun aspect of the story.
Like when Richard randomly looks at the camera and in English for the first time in the movie screams, "Who killed Captain Alex?"
Yeah.
Who?
Like, I mean, the dialogue, some of it's pretty entertaining. It gets the job done, but it's not nuanced, subtle dialogue.
I mean, it's a cheesy action movie. It's on the same level as like a Bruce Lee movie.
Yeah, I know, but like, I mean, if we're just gonna critique the writing fairly, I guess you could say it services the story well enough. And that's
but it is difficult to follow with VJ Emmy talking over the entire movie.
Yeah, but it does make it for a more entertaining experience. So I mean, I guess there's a trade-off with that.
Okay, I definitely think we should move on because we're 30 minutes in and we've only gone through 2 categories. Great.
So let's talk about cinematography. I think that's the first time I've said the word cinematography successfully without like stuttering over a fucking word or a letter. Anyway, so I'm not gonna lie here. The cinematography is not great.
No.
It also has a $200 budget.
Yeah, exactly.
So what can you expect?
I think the most you can say about it is the best parts of the cinematography are during the action scenes.
I would say the hand-to-hand combat. I wouldn't necessarily say the gun action scenes.
I mean, I think the cinematography for the gun action scenes
was decent, but I don't think it was a highlight.
I think it fairly shows exactly what's going on, and because of that, it's kind of a positive to the way the cinematography is a positive to the hand-to-hand combat scenes. It allows you to see the actual action. Now, I'd be lying if I said it was edited a bit poorly, but the cinematography in it of itself, allowing you to see what's actually happening, was positive in my opinion. I don't think it's masterful. I don't think it's like some of the most creative cinematography I've ever seen. But for an action movie to be able to see what's actually going on, it's a nice change of pace, and I think, in my opinion, it's above average, or at the very least, average cinematography.
Yeah, I think the main takeaway here is that Hollywood has set our expectations so low that the fact that we can see what's going on in the action scenes means it is above average cinematography.
Yeah.
So fuck Hollywood. Spend your multi-million-dollar budgets correctly, and good shit.
And you have to think as well. Nabwana only had 1 camera, maybe 2. Hollywood films have 10, maybe a dozen.
Yeah.
And like you see the difference. It's beautiful, honestly. Having
they built the equipment themselves.
Exactly. That like simplistic cinematography almost just makes it better.
But some of the cinematography during the dramatic scenes is very cheesy, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, the montage scene was kind of ridiculous. The camera was shaking everywhere, and it made no sense. I mean, the editing for it made sense, like in the context of the movie, but as a viewer, it's very nauseating and it's not entertaining to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So just like to mix both of those in, I feel like the cinematography is better when it services action, but then the rest of the cinematography was kind of all over the place, and you can tell that the guy is an amateur, but still, I mean, I think it's pretty impressive for the budget of the movie itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is there anything else you guys want to add to that analysis or no?
Oh, really?
No, I agree with that.
All right.
Let's
so-
talk about the weird fucking editing in this movie.
Yeah. Oh, and just to get this out of the way, I'm not sure if we got this through, but the directing, the writing, the cinematography, the editing, and is there anything else?
No, he did those 4 things.
Nabwana I.G.G did all of those.
Yeah.
Oh, and he produced it. He was the one that basically gave the $200.
Yeah,
as
those were his dollars.
as far as we know. So
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive. Anyway, let's talk about editing. What is your guys' opinion on it?
It was weird.
Yeah.
Let's just be real. There were times where there'd be a cut in like the middle of a conversation, and
Yep.
the same person would still be talking, but now they were in like a different place.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
But the editing, like special effects wise, for the action, was done really well. There were points where I was like, did he really just stab him in the jugular?
Yeah.
So I think that definitely was a positive. Although, I mean, again, on a $200 budget, there's not much you can do with an editing system.
Mhm.
So some of like the blood splattering or like the gun explosions or the bomb explosions were cartoonish, I guess would be the best word for it.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't feel like it took away that much from the action.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think, I mean, it was still entertaining to watch, like, especially with VJ Emmy's commentary in the background. It makes
Yeah.
for a really fun experience, and I feel like no matter if you watch this alone or you watch it with friends, it'll always be fun. And you'll
I
get
think
a
you
laugh.
should watch it with friends.
Yeah, but I
Agreed.
feel like, I mean, even if you get it, like if you watch it alone, I think you'll still get a laugh out of it. It won't be
Definitely.
as tormenting as watching The Room by yourself.
Oh,
Watching The Room by yourself would suck ass.
that's
but,
not possible.
No, but this movie, I feel like you could still watch alone, but it is recommended to watch with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in terms of the editing, some of it is really awkward and nonsensical, and it only serves, I guess. I mean, the point of editing is to serve the story,
Mhm.
but it will literally edit the next, like, from one chunk of the story to the next without there being a nice transition, and it's
Yeah.
very, like,
Choppy.
yeah, like, it's mind-boggling, I guess. However, some of the editing in terms of the fight scenes was pretty well done.
Yeah.
You still see exactly what's going on, and all of the cuts make sense. You can see every angle of the fight. But the dramatic scenes, that editing is a bit awkward, and
Yeah. I feel like anytime there were just people standing around talking, they didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
They didn't want it to be flat. They didn't want it the camera to just be pointing directly at the people standing around talking. So they tried to do something stylish and creative, but it just came off fucking weird.
Yeah.
Because there were cuts in awkward places, and like you said, it was choppy. There were parts where they just go from one location to the other, and the transition was not fluid. So they tried to spice it up, but they did not do it very successfully.
yeah, I mean, a sign of good editing, as I've said before, is either it's not noticeable, it's stylish, so it's noticeable and you have fun with it, and it serves a story, or it's noticeable because it's bad. In this
Mhm.
case, the dramatic scenes, it's noticeable because it's bad, and in the fight scenes, it's not really noticeable at all. It seems fluid, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. I mean,
Agreed.
it's not consistent all the time, but I think it's fluid enough that the action scenes are really enjoyable, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's not so bad that it got on my nerves.
Yeah.
No,
There were a few parts here and there. There were a handful of edits that made me go, okay, that was kind of shitty. But
like
it never got to the point where I was like, okay, for fuck's sake, this is
Agreed.
awful. I never got
Yeah.
mad at the movie.
No, me neither. Like I know exactly scene like that would be a great example of like it being particularly bad. There's like there's a scene in the beginning with Richard where he's really mad at Puffs, I guess, because
Mhm.
he just found out his brother was captured. And there's like 3 succinct cuts within like 2 seconds for no
Yeah.
reason at
Yeah.
all, and like I didn't understand that.
Anytime he was talking about like, oh, my brother, I want my brother back, there would be a cut, basically. And it was way too much.
But like,
Yeah, I mean, they were cutting like once per word, and it
Mhm.
got way too much.
but that only happened a couple times. That
Agreed.
wasn't the
Yeah.
consistent editing. So the editing wasn't so bad that it's unbearable,
Mhm.
but there are definitely spikes in quality depending on the type of scene.
Yep.
Let's talk about acting.
All right.
Let's actually give some of the names of the main characters.
Okay, so as Captain Alex, we've got Kakule William. As Richard the Tiger Mafia, we've got Serunya Ernest. And as Captain Alex's brother, Bruce Yu, we've got Bukenya Charles. Again, I apologize for mispronouncing Ugandan names. I love Ugandan films. I love Ugandan people. Go watch this fucking movie, and then go buy it on DVD.
Actually,
Okay.
Blu-ray.
Yeah,
Coming
you know
out
what?
on Blu-ray.
Buy it on Blu-ray, okay? Support Hollywood. Fuck Hollywood. Watch Hollywood.
Yeah.
But anyway, so those are I would say our 3 main characters: Captain
Mhm.
Alex, Richard, and Bruce Yu.
But this is definitely overall an ensemble film. Like,
Yes.
there was not really one character that outweighed all the others. If you took a character out, I feel like the movie would still be okay for the most part, but at the same time, you need every character.
Mm-hmm.
I just
So-
feel like without those 3 characters, though, that whole revenge plot and the paralleling
Agreed.
of
I
it,
meant more with, like, the, I guess, not background characters, because it really is an ensemble, but,
Like Puffs,
Puffs,
the
if you
Russian
took out-
mercenary.
yeah, exactly.
they all
Rita.
need each other. Is I guess like the point. They all
Yeah.
are what make up this movie.
and I think a definite point that we need to mention is, these guys are not professional actors.
Mhm.
They were all doing this for fun. I don't even think they were getting paid whatsoever.
Probably
Probably
not.
not.
Probably not. So they were definitely amateur actors, but I feel like that just made it so much better because they were having so much fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just to give some context, all 3 of us are like actors in terms of theater. So
Mhm.
we've all acted in multiple theater productions in our high school. So I guess we all have some sort of background, and we've also studied acting. And these 2 guys, I could probably say, are way better and know a lot more than I do. I guess I'm more interested in the different aspects of film.
I would
while
not say we're better at you than acting, but thank you. That's a huge compliment.
Yeah.
I believe that. So why don't you? I mean, Carson, you gave your take. Unless you want to say something more, what do you think of the acting, Luke?
Okay. It's not that good.
Agree.
But
Very nuanced
Listen,
analysis.
listen. Okay. I would enjoy the dramatic action or the dramatic acting more if it weren't for VJ Emmy. So you know what? Maybe I should.
Hmm.
Maybe I shouldn't say it's not good. It's like Sesurunya Ernest as Richard. Like this when he finds out that his brother has been captured. Like it was. I don't know. It's hard for me to comment on how he was doing as an actor because the entire time I had VJ Emmy in my fucking ear
Yelling brother.
making
Yeah.
jokes.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like we literally had someone talking over the actors the entire movie, and all I can really go off of are their facial reactions, which are pretty good
Mhm,
if
yeah.
I'm being
Yeah.
honest. I do think they were able to convey emotion, particularly when Rita asks Bruce Yu if she can eat his fish that he just caught, and he turns around and goes, "What the
What the
fuck?"
fuck? Yeah.
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 But you know, like dialogue is important, and you know, they're not fucking mimes,
Yeah.
but that's sort of what they became because of VJ Emmy.
Yeah, that's definitely a negative of VJ. I mean, I felt
Mhm.
was like he took like dramatic moments and made them
comedic.
it's way too like extreme to the point where it became comedic.
Mhm.
Like literally, like you were saying, every time Richard was like, "Oh, I want my brother back," he would be going, "Brother, brother," like whining, and it killed the mood.
I do genuinely think that if a copy of this movie without VJ Emmy exists, there's some good acting in there.
Agreed.
But you really don't get to appreciate it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I can agree with that. I feel like the best performance was probably Richard.
Yeah.
I mean, not like I'm not gonna
Just
sit
say
here.
it. Richard is better than Thanos.
Yeah. All I'm gonna say is I'm not gonna act like Richard is I don't even know like the fucking greatest actor ever, but he put a lot of passion in his role. He put a lot of emotion, and he was very entertaining to watch. And he
Yeah.
was very brutal
He
as a
was.
villain.
He was the star of this film. I agree.
Yeah.
Like his
Richard shoots his fucking wife and does not think twice about it.
and
He
he says,
shoots
"I have
so
more
many
wives,
people.
bitch."
He-
Like
yeah,
he's
Yeah.
like
straight up, like he's mad at Puffs for saving his wife.
and not his brother.
Yeah, like when his brother gets captured, he tells him, "I have a dozen wives and only one brother."
Yeah.
He did really well with that role.
Like we keep saying that Richard is better than Thanos, and like a part of me is like I'm very conflicted between the irony and non-irony because I genuinely love Richard and I was very entertained by him and I thought that he was a great villain and not only could I sympathize with him but like in a way you can also like kind of step back and just say like holy shit this guy is like he's fucking crazy but like he's just so compelling.
Mhm.
I guess is the best thing I can say. And his performance was just fun. Bruce Yu, I felt like all the performances were really fun.
They were.
Yes.
Even if they're not
even the ones that were a little bit overacting, like the guy, the police guy at the jail.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Who was like wailing his arms around every time he was speaking. Like even that was fun to watch.
Yeah.
But then you had
Mhm.
genuinely good performances like Richard and I would say Bruce Yu. Really,
He did really well
Bruce
as well.
Yu played the role of a hero who's also kind of an asshole who just is somewhat selfish
Mhm.
really well, even though you couldn't hear a lot of his lines.
I think his physicality was the best.
Exactly, the physicality was very good.
Yeah.
Like when he just throws the fucking jacket at Rita, and he's like, "Here, take this.
Don't get blood on
Don't
it."
bleed on it."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so overall the acting is very entertaining. It's not the greatest, but it's fun. And
It
it
is.
serves the movie. Next would be production design.
There is none.
It doesn't exist.
Okay, they did not. I'm sorry you're disappointed, but with their $200 budget, they were not able to create any sets.
But I think that also is really cool about it because they went like on site. This wasn't just like, oh, we built a set to mock Uganda's like the way like it looks during their civil war. It was legit. They went out and found like abandoned school buildings or abandoned warehouses from the civil war in Uganda and filmed there.
They filmed a war movie in a fucking war zone.
Yeah, exactly.
They filmed a war movie in a war zone. That is the biggest compliment you can give about this movie. There is no production design because it's realer than anything else on the fucking screen.
Because they didn't need to.
Yeah.
They were in it.
Yeah. So moving on,
the last thing is sound.
Why are we ending on this?
So just to get this out of the way,
the music is done by Kizito Vicente.
It's bad. It makes no sense almost every fucking time.
It's like classical music over fight scenes, and it's not like the.
Well, no, I mean the fight scenes had like more intense music.
Yeah.
The classical music.
The bar scene didn't.
I mean, but like then the classical music would come when they're just walking and doing nothing. And they're just like it doesn't make.
It was like a recorder, you know that like
flute
like thing, like that was in this action movie.
I mean, like listen, classical music with fight scenes can make sense and it actually can be really beautiful because it
Yeah.
can kind of show like the beauty in like darkness and violence and stuff.
But we're not talking Bach or Beethoven or anything like that. We're talking some dude playing a recorder into a microphone.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. The only music that fit the movie was some of the intense music they played during the action scenes, because that was in the background and it almost just seamlessly blended. But then the rest of the music stuck out, and it was just strange.
Was a sore thumb.
It was really strange to listen to. It didn't make any sense.
Nawana I.G.G has a weird Spotify playlist. Let's just call it for what it is.
Yes.
All right. The guy's a weird dude, but I love him.
Same.
After the credits, when he dedicates the movie to all of us, I almost cried.
Yeah, he's a very moving.
He's a beautiful man.
Yeah. And I loved that at the end, it kind of, this has nothing to do with music, but at the end they showed him filming it, and it really showed, again, just kind of like his passion and like how dedicated he was to the entire process.
Yeah, I mean, the movie, and you know what, we're just gonna move on, just to say this really fast. The rest of the sound, in terms of like sound effects, we're fine.
Yes.
Yeah,
They're serviceable.
The punching sound effects during the kung fu scenes were serviceable. The sounds of explosions and gunshots and the battle scenes were serviceable.
Yep.
Nothing groundbreaking.
But you could say it's like a little bit over the top, kind of like typical sound effects you'd find on a default like editing software or something.
Yeah.
But it fit the budget of the movie, and it fit the make and style. So it's not like it stood out very much. It just fit. It made sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on, I guess we're just gonna give our last thoughts about the movie, and probably give 2 different scores, or they just might end up being one. We'll see, because we did that for The Room, based on like one score just on a film basis, like how good of a movie it is, and then one based on entertainment. So who wants to go first?
This movie's a 10 out of 10.
Oh my god.
It's a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah.
There's not a single second that I didn't enjoy.
Okay.
Genuinely. And you know what? I'm bumping down my score of The Room to a 9 out of 10 in terms of entertainment value, because this is more fun to watch. And it's not like the same where I can say they're both 10s. Like, I've changed my view of The Room, because like The Room gets old after a while.
There are definitely stale moments.
Yeah, but there's not a stale moment in Who Killed Captain Alex. If I had to give a genuine rating, I would say 4 out of 10, with, again, 5 being the average movie, anything below that being below average, and anything above a 5 being above average. I would give it slightly below average, so 4 out of 10, and it's probably closer to a 3 than it is to being a 5. But fuck that score. Fuck 4 out of 10. This is the funnest movie you will ever watch. It is my second favorite movie of all time, and if I want everyone on Earth to see it. It's only got 3.4 million views, and we need to bump that shit up.
Yeah.
So 4 out of 10 in terms of genuine film quality. 10 out of 10 in terms of entertainment value. I will be buying Hollywood t-shirts and this movie on Blu-ray as soon as fucking possible.
Fair.
Carson?
Okay, so I think overall film value, I agree with you, Luke. It's about a 4 out of 10, being closer to a 3. Just because budget, like, they didn't have enough to do something that would be spectacular. Entertainment value, I think I'm gonna have to go with an 8 out of 10. It was definitely fun to watch, had a lot of good laughs.
That's a crime. I'm sorry.
Be quiet.
So it was fun to watch.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. There was a lot of moments where it was funny, but at the same time, I zoned out at certain parts, and I was like, there's too much happening. I'm like on sensory overload. I'm gonna zone out and stare at Bowser the Turtle instead.
Yeah, that is.
I have a pet turtle named Bowser.
Yes, Bowser is awesome. So I wasn't able to like fully absorb myself in the world, and that's why like I didn't have as much entertainment value as I would say Luke did. But there is value in watching it.
I think Luke's score of 4 out of 10 is well put. I don't think the thing with The Room, like giving it a 1 out of 10 is fair because everything doesn't make any fucking sense. And it's inexcusable for a $6 million movie. But with the movie with $200, the fact that it made like an almost average movie, it was just far short due to like some big hindrances just based on money, is really impressive. And the passion alone really bumps the score up, and the entertainment value in and of itself allows it for a 4. In terms of entertainment, I agree with you, Luke. Fucking 10 out of 10. The Room, I'm bumping that shit down to like an 8 because that movie had some stale parts, and the sex scenes were so fucking grating to watch. I wanted to kill myself, but
after seeing this and there not being any sex scenes, I really started to appreciate it more.
Yeah, like I had tons of fun, and although I zoned out sometimes, it wasn't necessarily out of boredom. It was just a lot, but like. It was a lot of fun. That's the thing. Yeah. I don't think I've laughed this much consistently in a really long time. I expected to laugh.
Cat in the Hat.
Fine, but like I expected to laugh this much during The Room, but there was just some parts that I was like, "Oh my god, I want to die." But this movie was fun through and through, from beginning to end. It was a complete blast. I will be supporting Macaulay Wood the next time they have a fucking tour in the United States, which I'm so disappointed to hear that they actually had one. Luke and I will be going. We will be watching the movies. We are going to get them on Blu-ray, get Macaulay Wood t-shirts. We're going to be supporting Nabwana I.G.G. because he is the fucking man. He deserves you guys' support. Please watch the movie on YouTube. We're going to put this in the description. Support the movie. It's fun. It's decently, surprisingly well made. That's all we can say about it.
Yeah, and I think another cool little tidbit that we haven't mentioned is that it is only an hour and 10 minutes long. So if you're short on time and can't watch a full movie that's like 2 hours long, this is a good option for sure.
Yeah. Is there anything else?
Follow me on Instagram. Handle starry_strawberry15.
Everyone tweet Macaulay Wood Studios and tell them that Luke Strawby wants to be in a movie, and I will pay for my plane ticket to Uganda. Anyway, that is all. Have a nice day.
Yep.
Yeah, see you guys in the next podcast.